Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Great. My name is Jody Kraft. I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Mahwah Public Schools. It is a great pleasure to have you here tonight for our Parent Academy session on Tiered Interventions of Support, or MTSS, for the K-12 level. So tonight we're going to spend some time talking about what MTSS is. My goal is to give you a clear understanding of what it is, why we're using it in our district, how it works in a K-12 setting, and give you all the opportunity to ask questions. Anything that you need clarified for you, I'm happy to address all of those questions at the end. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here tonight. I know how hectic the beginning of the school year is with sports and activities. As a mom of two, I recognize how busy a Wednesday night can be. So I thank you for spending time with us here tonight. So again, my goals for this session, number one, is to make this palatable for you as parents to understand what MTSS is, why our district is choosing to implement this district-wide, how it works in a K-12 setting, and again, an opportunity for you to digest this information and then think of questions towards the end of our session. If you have them, great, I'm happy to answer them. If you think of them later on, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to answer them as best that I can. So let's get started. So what is MTSS? So education is filled with acronyms. So I'll clarify this one for you. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. And basically what it is a framework to meet kids where they are. So in tiers. So we want to meet kids with their meet them where they are academically, social, emotionally, and address their behavioral needs in a tiered setting. So we're moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach to kids and making sure that we're meeting them where they are across all areas. Our decisions are grounded in data. And while we're making decisions in data, we're also making sure that we're progress monitoring our goals while working with kids to make sure that the work that we're doing with them, either in a whole group or a small group, is working and effective so that we can celebrate growth. And if it's not working, we can kind of shift gears and change our direction with our work. Why does this matter? Well, we've learned very early on that the one-size-fits-all approach does not work in education. We really want to focus on students and what they need, what they can do, and make sure that we're meeting them with data-driven decision-making in the classroom. We recognize that every student learns differently, and we want to celebrate student successes and push them along that learning continuum when necessary, but also remediate when remediation needs to happen. We recognize that the earlier we intervene with a student who may have a deficit, the better chance that we have of shortening that gap. And we don't want those small problems to become bigger challenges in the classroom. We want to build confidence amongst our students and show them and break things down for them so they understand that independence and confidence can increase once we give them the tools and strategies that they need to be successful in the classroom. So where are we with this work? So this work started with the first strategic plan that the district launched in 2020, and that was a 5-year plan that was grounded in solid instruction from the curricular lens, solid instruction that is implementing personalized learning and goal setting. So we're continuing that work with the Flight of the Thunderbird and our new strategic plan that we just launched this year. And we're committing to refining this work and strengthening it at the kindergarten through 5th grade level, which was a much easier transition for us to implement MTSS because of our reading and writing workshop models that already allow for small group instruction. We are committed to solidifying and supporting our 6 to 12 teachers in this endeavor and making sure that our supervisors and administrative team are a part of the work to make sure that we understand that small group instruction and tiered work is good instruction overall, and all of our students can benefit from this work. So I'm going to overview what each tier means. I'm going to go over it in general, and then I'll break down each of the tiers one by one. So I want you to think of it as tier 1 is something for all students, tier 2 is for some of our students, and tier 3 is very specific to 1 or 2 students. So tier 1 is just a universal supports curriculum that's delivered to the whole class. So if your child's, let's say, in 3rd grade, the curriculum is grounded in grade level standards that the state gives us. It's grounded with solid instructional research-based practices, and it's instruction that's delivered to the whole class. Clear routines and expectations are embedded throughout that work so that students have a clear expectation of what's expected of them so that they can access the curriculum that's being delivered to them whole class. We make sure to embed social emotional learning into these routines and instructions to make sure that our students are supported with work with our SEL coaches, with our school counselors. Example, some of that work is with our morning meetings and making sure that students have language to talk about their feelings. All of that is infused in Tier 1. We recognize that we have to differentiate how we deliver Tier 1 to our students. And some of the ways that we're able to do that is by providing visual cues for learners, whether it be with an anchor chart or some sort of visual representation of their learning as pictured here in this picture, providing graphic organizers or manipulatives. All of those differentiated supports are in place in Tier 1 so that everyone has access to good instruction and the teacher's able to deliver that work whole group. When we talk about Tier 2 is focused on small group instruction. What do students need based on the data that I'm collecting on an ongoing basis? What do they need? Do they need remediation? Do they need prerequisite skills in order to access what I'm trying to teach them? Or do they need enrichment? Are they grasping what I'm teaching and need some enrichment opportunities? So Tier 2 is developed to a more personalized approach and it's driven in data. So goal setting is based on the data collected via iReady, and I'll get to the different platforms that we use and how we collect data, but all of the work that happens in Tier 2 is data driven. So it's important that our teachers recognize what our students are able to do that require additional enrichment opportunities or need support in, and that data drives their decision making and who does what during Tier 2. Tier 3, remember, we think Tier 1 is for all, Tier 2 is for some, and Tier 3 is really intensive support. So now that my student has been through, let's say, Tier 2 supports, and they're not quite grasping what I'm getting, I've worked with them on a specific skill that's data-driven. I've implemented strategies. I've provided small group instruction. I'm monitoring their progress. I'm recognizing that they might need a bit more. So now I'm going to move to Tier 3, which is more intensive supports. That's more individualized. It's usually a one-on-one setting. We collaborate with specialists. Let's say a reading specialist or a math interventionist, school counselors are involved, if it's a behavioral concern, and it's a collaborative effort to provide a more intensive support with more frequency at the Tier 3 level. So again, to review, I know it's a lot of information. Tier 1 is for all, Tier 2 is for some, and Tier 3 is really an individualized approach. So how do we identify student needs? So it starts with data, and I've mentioned the word data over and over again because it's really essential to this work and this process. So from the K-8 level, we administer linked assessments 3 times per year, and those diagnostic assessments really give us a baseline of where students are. I recognize that for many of you wonder, like, what's happening with iReady? iReady is really an instructional tool that really helps drive the decision making in the classroom. At the secondary level at the high school, we use Linkit, which is a data warehouse along with it provides benchmarks across content areas that also gives our secondary teachers data and information to drive the instruction. So we grab that data and then we make decisions in our classrooms based on what we're learning about our learners from these benchmark assessments. So at the K-8 level, iReady, we give it 3 times per year. We give the diagnostic in the fall, the winter, and the spring in both ELA and math. The test is adaptive. And what does that mean? So each student, when they log on and the assessment starts, the test gives them a baseline based on their grade level. And depending on how they answer the question, the test will adapt based on their level. So it starts at a baseline, and then it'll adjust the level of difficulty depending on whether or not they get the question right or wrong. Once they complete the diagnostic, reports are generated that gives teachers kind of a bunch of different views and a bunch of different data reports, and I'll share some of those with you tonight. That kind of gives them a bird's eye view, like what is my class able to do? What can individual students do? And then those reports are kind of mulled over, and then decisions are made with regards to what do I need to address Tier 1, what do I need to address Tier 2, and what can I address Tier 3? After the diagnostic is given, then it also simultaneously creates a learning path for students. So if your child comes home and they're in kindergarten through 8th grade and they are sharing that they've been on My Path, some of them love it, some not so much, but there's a reason for it. My Path is very personalized and it's based off of the diagnostic results. And it's basically a pathway to help students get to where they need to be, and it measures growth across a period of time. So that My Path portion of iReady is it's very personalized and really provides them the support that they need with regards to iReady. So I have an example here. This is a teacher report for a second grade class. So if you look at the top, this is a reading classroom, and this is after the reading diagnostic, and the skills on top are listed on a continuum of reading skills, right? So we start with phonemic awareness and phonics, high frequency words, vocabulary, then we have comprehension, literature, and informational text. So if we look at Natalie, it looks as if Natalie, with regards to phonics, is not at grade level. So that's the first thing that I noticed when I look at this report. And then when we get to Michael, Michael is performing at a first grade level with regards to his comprehension. So once this teacher sees this report, she's able to kind of group her students according to need. So then what iReady does is that it provides each teacher with individualized instruction ideas for each of the students. So for Natalie, she really needs work with matching her vowel letters and long sounds. So iReady will provide a bunch of different resources. Again, these are set as exemplars for teachers to utilize, but if a teacher has a certain level of expertise and they feel that they can use these as a starting point, we give them the freedom to do so. But it basically is a very systematic in that it provides the teacher with exactly what the kid needs. So for Natalie, she needs help with her phonics. She needs help with vowels, letters, and long sounds. And for Michael, he needs some help with story elements with regards to his comprehension. So what iReady does, it gives the teachers a pathway to start forming those tier two groups based on what they need in the classroom. On the contrary, if this teacher now pulls a report and notices that 80% of her class is lacking in one of these foundational skills, she can then revisit that skill whole class in tier 1 instruction. So it serves both purposes. So it gives teachers data on individual students, and she's able to identify small pockets of groups where she can pull and remediate or enrich, or reteach something that perhaps didn't go as expected, and students might in the entire class might perhaps need a reteaching of that particular skill. At the secondary level, as they transition from the middle school onto the high school, we're really focused on skills when it comes to course content and what they need in order to be successful in those specific courses. And then also identifying what skills carry over from content to content. So we've selected Linkit as our data warehouse and benchmark assessment tool at the high school level. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. So at the high school, we use Linkit, and it provides teachers, again, a snapshot view of the class. It gives them not only individual student results, but also like how students performed in individual testing questions. So as they're like gearing up for college readiness and college preparedness, it really gives them teachers the opportunity to understand why students are performing with certain test questions and exposing them to different vocabulary and testing strategies and how to tackle certain skills on a particular benchmark. Every incorrect answer provides teachers with data suggesting why particular students might have picked that answer, and then it really helps them guide that tier 2 work and small group instruction. So Linkit, like I said, it really provides teachers with an overarching view of how students are performing, not only on their Linkit benchmarks, but if they've been in districts for their entire academic career, it will provide information about how they did in middle school, how they did at elementary school, their attendance, all of those things to give us a real picture of who the whole child is. So if you look here at this sample student, this has information. The student is currently in 8th grade. It has all of their benchmarking data. It has their access scores. They were an ELL student. It gives us their scores in 4th grade and 5th grade. It gives us their ELA diagnostic scores for iReady when they were in 8th grade. It also gives us our state standardized test scores and NJSLA. So a teacher can really get a snapshot, one-stop shopping for data on children. So this really helps build a profile of a student when we're looking to meet them both in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So here's a snapshot of the 2 different types of reports that teachers at the secondary level can get. So an item analysis, this is great. If a teacher gives a quiz or a benchmark via Linkit, they're able to look really at each item and review whole class, what common mistakes were made across the class. So it's on demand, quick. They can take action on this immediately. We don't have to wait till the end of unit test or the final or the midterm to kind of make those in-house decisions based on data. Then it also provides a class diagnostic that groups kids by skill. So it could really allow teachers the opportunity to look at what skills they're teaching in their content area and then group students accordingly. How can I group these students based on what they need and how they're performing? And how is that tied to a specific standard or skill? So again, just an opportunity for teachers to have data at their fingertips relationships to drive the decision making, and moving away from that one size fits all approach to teaching and learning. So again, I know I went very quickly, and I'm happy to stop and ask any questions, but I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with regards to our goal. So our shared goal for this work is to give every student in Mahwah the right level of support at the right time. We want to make sure that every student feels safe and supported, and give them the tools that they need to be successful along the way. And of course, building a strong homeschool partnership with parents and having you understand our work and what's happening within our buildings is important for us as well. So I went over a lot of information in 15 minutes. Wow, that was fast. How can you help as a parent? Well, the first thing is stay connected. Ask your child questions. Again, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids who are both in college right now. And I know that when they got home from school, I would ask them my usual questions. How was school today? And I would get the one-word answers. I usually got met with good or fine, or no response at all. But you could find those moments to ask questions about instead of asking, how was your day today? What did you learn today? And was it hard for you? Was it easier for you? Just engaging in those conversations. If your child shares with you that they're struggling in any aspect of schooling, please reach out to their teacher, ask questions. If you notice challenges, make sure that you communicate with the child's teachers. And the last bullet I really want to celebrate is celebrating progress. With this work with MTSS, we're not looking to compare one student to another. We really just want to give students what they need and celebrate their progress and growth. We want them to measure them against themselves, and progress and growth is what we're measuring. We want to give them what they need and make sure that they feel good about themselves because they were able to work towards a common goal with the help of a teacher and an educator and a collective group of people that just really want what's best for them. So I hope that made sense. I have parent resources here. I'm going to post this on our Parent Academy website and make sure that everyone has access to this. This is a link for an iReady Parent Resource Center. I have a one-pager for MTSS for parents, and then I have linked our strategic plan, which we're in the year 1 of our new plan of soaring Thunderbirds. We're flying and doing all great things in our district. So I said a lot. Any questions for me about this work, what MTSS means? It can be specific to a specific tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or an overarching question about instruction as a whole. I'm happy to take those questions now. Feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them. Oh, I have a question. What happens when a student is new to Mahwah and does not have old data to compare to? Okay, that's a great question. So again, if they're new to Mahwah, we start with the baseline. So we begin our diagnostic testing in October. So we will able to collect data, but we also, iReady and Linkit are not the only data points that we have on children. So teachers are tasked with using formative assessments, which is daily assessments on the work that they're doing in the classroom. For example, as they're teaching something in the classroom, they collect data on what they're teaching in that moment. So in real time, so what I like to call a check for understanding. So not only do they have iReady data assessment data available to them, but they're gathering information on a daily basis based on the instruction that they're delivering. So we have different pools of data to pull from. So if they're new to Mahwah, teachers are very adept at collecting data and making sure that they have what they need to make decisions for your children. So we'll start with the iReady diagnostic, and then we'll start building those formative assessments into daily instruction. That's a great question. Oh. Any other questions? I want you to really just, if there's anything that I want you to walk away from this from this session today, is that, again, it's the approach to teaching and how we deliver instruction is that's where the shift is happening. We recognize that we have to deliver to the whole class or to the whole course, but we recognize that we can't approach the entire period or the entire class that way, that we have to provide personalized instruction based on data, and meet kids where they are across all grade levels. As I said earlier, and I kind of glossed over this point, but I think it's important to revisit that this work was a lot easier to lean into at the kindergarten through fifth grade level because of our reading and writing units of study, which are embedded in Readers and Writers Workshop, which has a similar structure where teachers teach a mini lesson and then they break off into small groups. So that transition to MTSS was a lot easier at the elementary level. At the secondary level, again, where teachers are charged with delivering content-specific instruction to their specific content areas, it's been a shift in ideology and how we deliver instruction, but the teachers are on board and they recognize the value and they see the proof. You know, we do a lot of data reviews. We have data teams across the district, but we sit down and we analyze data as a collective group, and they see the growth once they start implementing some of these practices. So it's definitely a work in progress. District-wide, again, strengthening what's happening at the K-5 level, but also looking at it through a 6-12 lens and recognizing that it's not just an elementary way of thinking. It's more, it's good instruction across the board. Every child deserves to be met where they are, regardless of what grade they're in. Okay. What if a child has ADHD and does poorly on the actual assessment? I'm guessing that you're referring to the diagnostic assessment, and I certainly recognize that not every child tests well, right? So it's a matter of we've embedded. Teachers have to know who their students are and have to understand what they bring to the table. So if I have a child in my class that I know has ADHD and doesn't test well, I'm going to take that into consideration and recognize that that data isn't necessarily clean. So what I might do is I'd take a look at the diagnostic data results, look at how that child performed, and then pull them in the back and really like monitor and assess one-on-one those specific skills to see where that student falls in. So again, I'm not going to take that diagnostic assessment the same way, that data as I would with another student who doesn't have ADHD. I'm going to take that into consideration and then really do my due diligence to make sure that I have a true assessment of what that child's able to do by doing a deeper dive and some one-on-one work with that child just to make sure that they feel comfortable and safe and understand that my teacher's really taking the time to see what I know and recognizing that testing is not my forte. So definitely doing some deep work with that child and making sure that I give them every opportunity to show me what they know. Great question. It seems like minutes are precious, so I'm wondering how the students can progress. Another great question. So iReady recommends a certain amount of minutes in order for students to make their way or make their goals, their growth, what they call it, stretch growth on MyPath. So I know the emphasis is on the minutes, and I think I'd like to shift that focus, that it's not the emphasis on the minutes, but understand that every child needs to understand the why behind the minutes. And even at the K-5 level, and we've talked a lot with teachers about having those data-driven conversations and in a very developmentally appropriate way, where kids understand why they're doing MyPath, why they're taking a diagnostic. And if we make it kid-friendly for them and make them understand that the reason you're doing this is so that I, the teacher, can help you along your journey in this classroom as a learner, I think that goes a long way. So I think, yes, there is a recommended amount of time that a kid needs to be on MyPath and iReady, but I also think that work can't happen unless teachers engage in those types of conversations with kids where they recognize the importance of why they're doing what they're doing. So we're looking to shift that focus. And again, in order for the program to work, kids have to have access to the information and the portal. So combining both the minutes, but also I think before that work, really just having kids understand why they're doing what they're doing so they can take part in that goal setting and making sure that they're a part of that work. So I hope that answers your question. Like I get that, you know, we've been harping on minutes, but I think the shift now is not the minutes, it's the why, and understanding that there's a reason why you're on iReady. I was in a classroom today. I was at JK, and no, not JK, that was yesterday. Today I was at Lenape, and I was walking around and I saw a kid sitting doing his iReady, and I walked over to him and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "My iReady." And I said, "Oh, it looks like, you know, you're doing a great job." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, do you understand why you're doing iReady?" He's like, "Yeah, to help me get better." I'm like, "Great. And we had a great conversation, and I basically encouraged him to keep pushing. And then I said, listen, and sometimes in life we don't get to do all the things that we love to do all the time, but this is important work, and your teacher's really looking forward to seeing what you can do. So he smiled at the end of our conversation. He was not smiling when I started the conversation, but we got there. So I think that's an important part of our work. Oh, especially for middle school. Yes. Middle school. I mean, I've raised, I've survived raising two kids in the middle school level. So yes, I've been in the middle school as well. Again, and making them understand the why, I think also is important. And also just having them understand that in middle school, we're tasked with getting them ready for high school. And the more data we have of them as learners, the better prepared we can make them for high school. So making that high school experience that's coming on the horizon attainable, and understanding that they're getting there, and that the more information we have about them, I think is important. But the middle schools are doing great. I have to tell you, I'm thrilled with what I'm seeing at the middle school. They're really doing an awesome job. So Rachel, I feel your pain. I get it. But we're working on it. And again, I think the why is super important for our middle schoolers. Okay, Christina C., what happens if they get to tier 3 and the student is still not doing well? Does that warrant an evaluation form to the child study team? That's a great question. And it's a question that we are talking about at great length as a district, because I think that there's no one size fits all answer, right? I think that sometimes we're looking for a black and white. Yes, they go to tier 3. It doesn't work. Yes, they move on to child study team. It doesn't always work that way, especially when we're dealing with kids. So sometimes, yes, it does warrant a recommendation to the child study team, but not all the time, right? Some kids just really need some more time in tier 3 and a change in approach in how we're delivering that instruction in tier 3, and maybe shifting our instructional approach. So the answer is sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. And again, I know that sometimes we're looking for a concrete answer, but I think, again, we're in the business of working with children and young adults. So it's going to really depend on that child and what the approach is in tier 3, and have we maximized our arsenal of instructional strategies in tier 3? So hope that answers your question. Let's see, who else? Anybody? These are all great questions. Thank you guys so much. I know I went through it quickly, but I feel like this part of the conversation is the best part. Any other questions? If you think of something, let's say you're driving to soccer tonight and you think of something, oh, I should have asked Mrs. Kraft this question, please feel free to reach out and email me. I'm available to answer your questions at any time, whether it be today or tomorrow. Feel free to shoot me an email about some of the questions that you may have later on. I know, like I said, I tried to make it as parent friendly as possible. Oftentimes in education, we get caught up in the acronym world where we just start spitting out information, and parents who are not educators get lost in some of that language. So I just tried to make it as seamless for parents to understand the work that we're doing with regards to MTSS. So it's all great work. I'm really proud to be a part of a district that's embarking on this work across K-12. It's really exciting work, and to see the teachers really buy into this methodology and understanding that we are here to support kids and meet them where they are is incredible work. So I'm really proud to be here. So any other questions before I say goodnight? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate your time and your thoughtful questions. I look forward to seeing you around the district. And again, if you think of anything along the way, if you have any questions regarding curriculum and instruction, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with you at any time. I look forward to seeing your kiddos at each of the schools. I've been really enjoyed seeing them each and every day. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you for your time. Good night.